But right before, it's funny you mentioned you're going down to LA to see your kids for Father's Day. I called my dad this morning for Father's Day, and I told him that I was interviewing you. And my dad was like, "Oh my God, I remember that show. I remember that show. What is it? What was the name of the show when you were a little kid?"
Courtship
That's
of
right.
Eddie's father.
That's right, that's right, and he was like, "Bad news bears," and so that's funny because me and my dad for Father's Day were talking actually about you in the interview I was about to do, and it's so cool to me, both of those because when you look you up, right, when you Google your name and you look at the Wikipedia, there's obviously a lot about the dead Kennedys and recovery stuff, but the acting stuff was huge. I mean, Bad News Bears, and can you remind me, because neither him nor I could remember, when we saw the picture of you, what was the storyline for you? Were you the pitcher that the girl replaced? What was the storyline of your character?
I was not a bear. The Bad News Bears were the team with Tatum O'Neal. Walter Matthau was coaching them. Vic Morrow played my dad. I was the pitcher on the Yankees. I was the
Okay.
badass who fucked with the Bears all the time.
Okay. You were the bad guy.
Yeah,
You were
I
the
was the bad guy.
antagonist.
But I had
Okay.
this
Okay.
climactic scene of the Little League dad slapping me, and then I like threw the ball at his feet and walked away. Like, yeah, it was dramatic. And they were like, "This is your Academy Award moment, Brandon. Don't blow it." And then Vic Morrow was drunk on the set and he slapped the fuck out of me. So it
Really?
was real.
Oh,
He really
wow.
hit me.
Oh my
And he
gosh.
was a whole fun alcoholic. Like, if you didn't get a shot with Vic by noon, just leave him in his dressing room because he was hammered.
Oh, wow. So wait, in a scene like that, is the slap supposed to be like they hit you and you turn? And how do you stage that where it's not real?
Before lunch, we gathered out on the pitching mound and he had a mark. He stood here. I had a mark. I stood there. We rehearsed and he would feign a slap and they would cut to me and I would go, "Oh, ow. Oh, do acting." Well, we come back from lunch. He's drunk and he's this far in front of his mark. I look down and I'm like, this fucker's like, he's close. And the director liked to just walk up and go, "Okay, let's shoot. Ready, action." And Vic just went, wham, and fucking knocked me off my feet.
Oh my gosh.
I stood up and they just let the camera go. And then we finished and the guy yelled cut and I went, "Oh," and he walked up. He goes, "What happened?" I go, "He fucking hit me." Like I wasn't filming anymore. I'm walking away. This guy hit
Oh my
me.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
And the guy just goes, "Print that. Like, we'll use it."
Right?
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't shoot again.
Yeah. I bet. Of course.
Luckily, I was about, 4 Heinekens and a couple of joints in because
How old were you?
I was 13.
And you were 4 Heinekens and a couple of joints in on that scene?
Oh, yeah, I didn't draw silver breath on the filming of Bad News Bears.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is what we gotta get to. This is amazing. Brandon
Yeah, bring all
Cruz.
that shit up.
Yeah. Brandon Cruz, welcome to the show. That was a great little intro. I'm gonna leave all that in. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So good to see you again.
Good to see you too, man. So I saw you for a sec at Dopeywood, right? Is where we actually met in person for a second?
Yeah, Wasuki.
That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, cool. Okay. That was a fun show.
That was so funny. Oh my God. Margaret shows. I love Margaret. She's so good.
And I've never seen Bobby Lee do stand-up, and so when he ran out, I didn't know anything about his shtick, right? I've seen him on podcasts, and he's normal, and Dave even interviewed him, and he's like I mean, when I say normal, he's 80% just like a regular guy. He's got his little bits where he's funny, but I've never seen his full-on shtick. When he ran out, and he ran out, and he was like, "Good evening, my name is Margaret Cho." As
Oh,
he's running
he is.
around.
I mean, I've seen him around. I know him. I've known him for a while. He's so different on stage. Like his
Yes,
stand-up is
totally.
it's still him, but it's whoa. He was amazing.
It's to the
He was
max, that
so,
character.
so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really good. But the whole thing was good.
He, he becomes that he just lets it all out. It's very cathartic. We've talked about it. Like I'll see him after a meeting or we're just hanging out and because there are meetings at the Comedy Store at noon every day.
That's wild.
So people would be walking around like, "Hey, yeah, I'm gonna do this later here. Tonight I got 10 minutes," and then they would come into the meeting, and so it was like the meeting had comedians, and some of them I knew. And they would just, talk like not comedians. They were just like one of us. And so we really got to know each other. And I know his little brother. And just, growing up in Hollywood, like we had a mutual, like, oh, I know you, you know me, blah, blah, blah. And it was just nice to be able to sit down and, you know, have a coffee and chit chat and talk about stuff. And we both had Margaret in common because I knew Margaret from years and years ago. A good friend of mine was her manager, and I would see Margaret all over the place. And I don't think when we met, either one of us were sober.
She probably wasn't because she's been sober for, I think, 10 years, about the same as me. I think she got sober in 2015. So when you met her, if you've known her for a while, she probably would not have been sober yet.
I got sober in 96.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, that was a while ago.
That was a long time ago.
I'll have 30 years next. What month is it? June. So in 2
We're
months,
June.
maybe, if I make it.
Right. I love that you still say that because I still say it that way too. I'm not going to ever take one day for
In
granted.
my men's group, there's a guy that had 40 years and he went out. So,
Right. Totally.
we're all kind of watching each other like, you okay? You all right?
Totally. Yeah.
It
Uh-huh.
happens.
Yeah. I just got chills when you said that. I remember the rehab that I went to. I just loved the guy that owned it. Old surfer guy, older surfer dude, Mexican guy from around here, been around forever. He was just the coolest guy. He showed me recovery was cool because I didn't think that it possibly could be. And he was so funny and so great. This guy, Steve Brigard, he passed away from complications with Hep C. But I remember him telling me once, he said, you should have, because he had 40 years or something. And he said, no, you should have a healthy fear of it, honey, forever. I know you got your 6 months right now and you feel brave, but you should just have a healthy fear of it. It doesn't have to rule your life, but keep that healthy fear.
No, it's always in the back of my mind, like, you know what? Because I'll hear people speak from podiums like, you know what? A drink is not an option. It's like, oh, fuck yeah, it is. If the other option is suicide, I'm going to drink first.
My sponsor says that to you. It's always an option. It's still always an option. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an online argument about somebody posted like relapse is part of recovery, and they were like, "No, it's not. That's negative. You can't say that." It's like, if that's the option instead of killing yourself, fuck, it better be. Like, I want people alive. I can only work with people who are alive because I work in treatment, and I help people find places and help them in their early stages, like get into recovery communities and stuff. And some people, they slip up. They aren't sure yet. And they haven't made a commitment. They don't have a sponsor. They aren't working steps. They aren't doing anything. They're just wondering what this is all about. And then they relapse. And some people are like, oh, fuck, you're just a drunk. You're just a bad junkie. And it's like, why are you judging these people? They're trying to figure shit out.
Well, and I relapsed a lot. I relapsed a lot. I don't know if you did, but I went in and out a lot for years and years and years. So for me, that is a huge part of my story. I went out a lot, a lot.
Yeah, well, for 10 years, I was told I needed it. I didn't know what they were really talking about because I was pretty loaded most of the time. It wasn't until my ex told me with a note on the bed at a family getaway in Santa Barbara, if you don't get sober, you will never see me or your son again. And our son was 13 months old. We'd only been married a couple of years. So I went, oh, fuck, she's serious. This is real. And I said, I went out to the pool. I found her and I said, I got your note. I understand. I know I'm fucking up. And I'll do it tomorrow. Tonight I'm going to get fucked up. So I called my friend in Santa Barbara that had some stuff, and I did some stuff, and I wandered around the hotel, and I charged everything to the room because her dad was paying for it. And at the end of the night, I pointed up to a beer, and the bartender was closing the bar, and I was shit-faced, and he's like, no. And I kept bugging him and kept bugging him, and he said, you know what? And he went to the top shelf and brought down a warm, dusty, cobweb-covered Miller Genuine Draft, like the worst beer in the world. Although I did drink it. And every sip of that beer I took, I felt a little clearer. So by the time I finished it, I don't know why this, I'm not a religious guy, but the higher power thing's pretty weird. By the time I finished it, I was pretty fucking sober. And I'd been doing Xanax and heroin and Jägermeister and drinking beer all day. and I like had lucid thoughts. I knew what I was doing. And I called a friend who I knew was sober in LA. And I said, I'm coming home tomorrow morning. Pick me up, take me to one of your meetings, get me one of your big books, and take me to one of your cult meetings I'm in. And I've been sober ever since.
No way.
I know how now because I did the work. I got a sponsor. But those 10 years before, when everybody told me I needed to do it, I think that you don't know what you're talking about. That guy's worse. That guy's worse. I always had the lesser companions. I always had the people that were worse than me, you know. But at some point, I became the worst one and didn't realize it. And my ex-wife did for sure. And I thank her to this day. She's going to give me my 30-year cake if I make it, and both of my kids.
How long have you been divorced?
8 years, 9 years. She's still one of my, if not my, she's my fucking best friend. Just
Wow, that's really
oh yeah,
cool.
I love her new husband. Her new husband. They've been married like 4 or 5 years. He's awesome. The kids come and give me cakes when they're in town. She surprised me when I moved back from Europe by showing up and giving me my 25 year, and that was like I thought my sponsors give me a cake, and he goes, "Is that your ex?" And she was walking in the door with my kids. I'm like, wow, they surprised me and they took me out to lunch. So, yeah, we're close because I'm an adult and I know how to do adult things, and I'm not mad at her, and we weren't vengeful, and we had a great divorce. And she's still my friend. I respect her, and she's the mother of my kids. That's why I get to celebrate Father's Day today. It's because she gave me two amazing kids that you know know my story and know like dad did some shit back in the day, and they'll call me with questions about stuff.
Oh, they do?
And oh yeah, yeah, they're very open about everything.
Well, and you've been open, so they can be open with you, you know?
Yeah, it's like I don't ever want you to think you can't talk to me about something, whether it's drugs or relationship or whatever, because I've been through a lot of stuff. I'm 6 and 4. My kids are 26 and 31, and my son's the oldest. My daughter's an actress now, and she's going through her career, and I'm so proud of her, and I'm so proud of my son. He's works at a hotel, and he has to deal with the public, and they're just, it's a very high-end hotel, and they're very entitled and a lot of drunks, and he's like, "I don't know how you do it, Dad. These drunks come down in the lobby at 1 a.m. demanding free shit." And he goes, "I just want to kill them." He goes, "And you're always so mellow with all these drunks." Because he's seen me. Like, we were at Cantor's one night, and I can't out him, known celebrity was being let out by security because he didn't have any money to pay for his bill. And I knew the guy, and I looked at the security guard. I go, "How much?" And he goes, "Well," I go, "What does he owe you?" And he's like, $7. I gave him the money, and then I stand up and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he goes, "Oh God, you know, what? Don't take me to a rehab." So I took him to a rehab.
But so okay, so I jumped you way, way ahead, but I wanna go back to how we get to you're in that hotel in Santa Barbara with the wife that leaves you the note. I wanna go all the way back because you were not born in LA, right? So how did you get into acting? What was the dynamic in your house? Who was there? And how did you become a little child star?
This is a good question, and I have a pretty good story for it. I was born in Bakersfield, California, up in the old honky tonk country music Bakersfield Sound era. And my grandpa owned a honky tonk, and my mom was just a rebellious, crazy, the oldest of six. Her youngest brother was a biker. She had four sisters that were all heavily into, back then it was wine and reds, like barbiturates. So they were all fucked up. They were smoking weed with the honky tonk crowd, and they were going to the parties on the other side of the tracks where there were other people there that my grandpa hated because he was a fucking racist. And so my mom was very rebellious and got pregnant with me. And my grandpa said, "Nope, you're not having that kid up here," because, nobody should know because she was not married. She was 20 and he was not white. So he shipped her to Oxnard, and she ran away and had me in Bakersfield. And then we got shipped back to Oxnard, and I stayed here with my grandparents. And my mom met a guy on the beach like a month later and went, "Oh yeah, that's the guy." And he was another not white guy, and she proceeded to pop out like four kids back to back to back. One was given up for adoption right after me, and then she had three more, and those were my brothers and sisters that I grew up with. The two brothers, one sister. But the house was grandpa racist, grandpa drunk, grandma codependent, enabling, every sibling of my mom's drug addict. By the time I was 10, two of my aunts were dead from overdoses. My stepdad had been in and out of jail for fighting. My uncle was in jail for being a biker and fighting. My grandpa was fighting everybody. We would go to get them out of bars at 1 in the morning. My grandma would wake me up and we'd get in the car and go and collect the various aunts and uncles and grandparents that were, out drinking. And it was chaos. It was violent. It was, there were drugs everywhere. Every feeling I saw an adult have, there was a pill or a smoke or a drink that was used to celebrate it or to mourn it or to just, the sun rose today. Let's have something. And that was my mentality. My stepdad ran a bar 5 houses away from where we lived on the beach. And I was just a little beach kid that ran around with really no supervision and avoided all the violence and craziness at home. And mom wasn't always there because mom was off with whatever band she knew, and dad was at the bar, and grandpa was drinking at the bar, and I didn't know what was what, but I would watch TV a lot. And I would see Leave It to Beaver, and I would see Dennis the Menace, and all these black and white shows where these kids had a mom and they had a dad, and they came home from work and they had a hot meal, and these kids went to school and they did their homework and they were goody goodies. And I was like, when I'm on TV, I'm going to do that. I'm going to have both parents, and I'm going to have hot meals. I'm going to have a bedroom. And I kept bugging everybody that would listen when I'm on TV. When I'm on TV, I did a play when I was 4. I was Toto the dog. I crawled around and barked, and they thought that was cute. And they decided they would take me to Hollywood and get me discovered. So they drove me to a place on La Cienega and Santa Monica Boulevard called Take One Productions, and it was a total ripoff. They had a video camera and a photographer, and they would get your kid on TV for, I don't know how much money it was back then, probably not a lot, but then it was, some hundreds of dollars or something. And they never had any intention of doing anything. They just, got people in, and it was like Barbizon School of Bottling, like how they ripped off
Oh,
everybody.
Barbizon. Hell yeah. I forgot about that till
Yeah,
right
so I
now.
was in the Barbizon School of Acting, basically.
Yeah.
And I couldn't read. I was in kindergarten. I couldn't read. I was just a little beach scum kid that would chase down big surfboards that bigger guys would lose, and play in the shore break with them until they took them away from me. And, I just wanted to be a surfer and be away from my family. So I spent a lot of time at the beach. I was always off just doing my own thing. So I do this thing in Hollywood. I think nothing of it. For some reason, they put my picture in the window, and a casting director who was casting Eddie's father came walking by, looked at it, and walked inside and went, "How do I get a hold of that kid?" And they didn't know what to tell him because nobody had ever asked anything. They gave him my grandparents' phone number. So my grandparents get, yeah, my grandparents get the phone call. This is 1968.
This is like a discovery story that when you go to LA, because I went to LA in 2002 in an attempt to be an actress, this is the discovery story you hope happens that never happens. This is
Yeah,
crazy.
this is like my version of sitting at Schwab's and getting discovered. But I was sitting in my house in Oxnard, and my grandma said, "They want you in Hollywood." And they drove me down there, and I walked into an auditorium in Culver City with 300 kids, and I knew a couple of the kids from TV, and I'm sitting there and I can't read. Everybody's got a script. I'm just looking at it like, I don't know what this is. I get called in eventually, and it's Bill Bixby, who was on Eddie's father, and James Comack, who was the producer and director and writer, and he did everything, and he played Uncle Norman. And I walk in, and they're like, "Hi." I'm like, "Hi." And they're like, "Do you have a picture?" And like, I didn't have a headshot. I didn't have a picture to give them. And like, Do you know the sides? I'm like, I don't know what sides are. I can't read. I guess I just said no. And they both looked at each other and went, fuck, what do we do with this kid? All right, walk to the door, turn around, look at Bill. That's Bill, by the way, and say, Daddy, I love you. And I did it. And they both looked at each other and got up. And one of them grabbed my hand and said, where are your parents? And I said, I don't know, because I didn't. And they're like, how did you get here? Like, what do you mean you don't know where your parents are? I'm like, well, my grandma and grandpa are sitting right there. And my grandpa, who's a huge Jimmy Comack fan, and my grandma, who loved Bill Bixby from My Favorite Martian, are just staring like, oh my God, TV stars. And they walk up and they go, we just wanted to say thank you to whoever brought us Eddie. And 2 weeks later, I was filming the pilot with the 1967 Playmate of the Year and Bill Bixby and Miyoshi Umeki and James Comack. And
Brandon, this is crazy.
I know it does not happen that way
No, it doesn't happen that way.
on TV. So my wishes were like, I'm going to TV. I'm going to be on TV. And wait, I don't have a mom. Okay, that's weird. Who's going to make the food? Oh, Mrs. Livingston, the maid, Miyoshi Umeki. We have a maid. Oh, fuck, I've moved up because I've never had a maid, but we have a maid on the TV show. And the show was, it was sweet, and it was corny, and it was sappy, and it was very sexist, and it was very racist because the Japanese woman like was subservient and served us, and it was just you couldn't make it now. But back then in '68 was like you got away
So
with that
wait,
shit.
where did you live while you were filming?
Lived in Oxnard. My
And you would
grandma drove
commute.
me to MGM Studios in Culver City every day. We'd wake up at 5 in the morning and drive PCH, and I'd wake up somewhere around County Line or Malibu, and she would, while driving, read my lines to me, and I would memorize not only my lines but everybody else's because I couldn't read. I was just memorizing everything. Then we would get to the set. I would go to school, go through hair and makeup, which I loved because they just pampered you and combed your hair and shit. And I'd put on the clothes I had to wear for the scene, and I'd go in, and then we'd shoot the scene, and somebody would forget their line, and I would just say it because they, and they're like, how do you know every line? And they're like, oh yeah, you have to memorize everything. I was just a little kid. I didn't know. But we do this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'm learning like how it goes. And I'm getting up in the morning, and grandma's driving, grandpa's putting me in the car while I'm asleep, and I'm changing clothes and getting up and going to school. And the tutor was really cool, and I started going through school like fast. I was the only student. And so I finished kindergarten real quick, and then got into first grade, and I think I got into second grade. They kept telling my school, like, send more stuff, send more stuff. And then at the end of '68, we had finished the first season, and I had to go on hiatus. So I went back to my school because I figured I'm in school. My friends go there, and I show up, and the principal goes, what are you doing here? It was just down the street from my house. Do I not go to school here still? And he goes, don't go out there. Like, why not? And this is like 8 months after we filmed the pilot, and then the show got picked up, and it was airing. But see, I went to bed at like 7 o'clock at night. I never saw my show.
Oh, wow.
It was popular, and I wanted to go out onto the, to recess at school and see my friends. And the principal said, you can't go out there. Half the kids want your autograph. And I was like, that's weird. And he goes, and the other half want to beat you up. And that's when I realized at like 6 years old, like, I don't want to be famous. I hate this. This sucks.
Oh, okay.
This is weird
Okay.
because I couldn't go anywhere without kids bugging me.
Yeah.
And during hiatus, I would grow my hair out, and people would be like, oh, you're a girl. Oh, you're good. And, I was just a little surf kid. I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to go surf. And I hung around all the older people because the younger ones gave me shit. The older ones didn't care. And these are like my uncle's friends who were bikers, but some of them surfed. And the older guys just didn't, they knew what I was doing, and they didn't really care. The little ones, the younger ones, my age kids were like movie star, millionaire. I'm like, I don't make $1 million. I've never starred in a movie. and it's a TV show, and I'm just the co-star, and they thought I was a precocious smartass for saying that, but it was the truth. But they didn't want to hear that. They just wanted to tease me. Kids are cruel.
Yeah, they are, very. So did you get paid, and who got that money? I mean, obviously you got paid, but was it a lot? Where did it go?
The first year, I think I got $150 an episode,
Okay.
and I'm pretty sure I never saw any of that.
Okay.
All in all, like at the end of everything, and I turned 21, I was supposed to get my trust fund. I didn't have any money. It was all
Okay.
spent. There was supposed to be some bonds, but the court had been petitioned by my people who raised me, and some money was taken out to invest, and they weren't very good investors. And sometimes I was held hostage, and it was like, "What do you want? What do you need?" And my mom usually needed a new Volkswagen van, or a ticket to Florida or San Francisco, or Brandon can't come into work today. He's sick, and they're like, "Oh, what do you need?" And so there were payoffs. I was kind of held hostage, and that my parents did the best they could do. They got divorced when I was like 6, and they were addicts, they were alcoholics. I think, I'm not sure, I just know they did a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs.
So wait, do you and when you say parents, you mean your stepdad, right? Your biological dad, did you ever know him?
Never met him in my life. Don't know. I was raised by wolves.
You never tried to find him or anything when you were older?
No, no. Somebody contacted me and said that they were him, and I met him, and I was like, no, you're not, because the first thing they did was ask me for money.
Oh my gosh, right. So, okay.
Like, if you know my mom, there's none of that left.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that didn't happen, and I was like,
Okay,
"That's."
so you do this show for a few years and then somehow that rolls into Bad News Bears, right?
Well, 69 to 72, I did. Eddie's father was over in 72. Everybody on the set realized what my family situation was like, how chaotic it was, and how I needed to like have a normal childhood. So Bixby took me for weekends, but Bill was the swinging single bachelor of Hollywood in 1970, 71. So he went to the Playboy Mansion every weekend, and so did I. And when you're 8, 9 years old and curious and wandering around the grotto at midnight, you see things. So I saw a lot of things I probably shouldn't have, which was a lot of nudity and probably sex, but I wasn't quite sure what, A went into B, and I saw things, but I didn't put it really completely together. But I was like hypersexualized and watched a lot of drug use and saw a lot of pills and a lot of powder and sugar cubes. I was like, what are they doing? So it was a journey of discovery.
So, were there any because I'm picturing this. I wonder if this happened. Were any of the Playboy bunnies like, "Oh my god," and try to like kind of like take care of you while you were there, like mother you a little, or you just wandered around wild?
I got a lot of hugs, so I kind of was smothered by many well-meaning women.
Were they just walking around naked with like bathing suits on kind of?
That
Okay.
Not late at night, no. I mean, during the daytime and stuff, and there were photos, and there were different parties that, Hef either was or wasn't there, but, it was a big, you know, PR stunt the whole time. But late at night, it got nutty, and Bill wasn't going home, and that meant I wasn't going home. The people that worked there would give me food, and then I would just wander around, and I'd walk in and be, "Why is Lee Marvin licking that girl? Oh, okay. That's what you do." So in my head, I'm thinking, I'm learning about this stuff because I've heard about it from the older guys. So I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, I could do that. I think one of the women, one of the playmates at some point, I think I was like 9, that gave me a hug, and I kind of gave her a grab where I shouldn't have. And she was just like, you probably shouldn't do that, kid. I was like, but I was around adults the whole time. So it wasn't Bill. But people on the set found out Bill was taking me to the Playboy Mansion all the time. Then I got kind of adopted by the one of the guys that worked on the show. He had 5 kids. He raced motorcycles. I got to hang out with his kids, who totally accepted me, and I still call them my brothers and sisters to this day. I'm still in touch with them. I love them to death. They would put me on a motorcycle with a full helmet, a full face helmet, and I would ride around Indian dunes by myself, and nobody would bother me. Nobody recognized me. Nobody wanted my autograph. They just wanted to race me. And I got pretty good. And then I got into skateboarding and I got into surfing more because I lived on the beach. And I did things that were not, group. Like I couldn't play baseball. My brothers played little league. I couldn't play. I couldn't be on a team. I couldn't be, sitting there in Oxnard at the little league ball field. If I went to watch my brothers play, it was, I'd get mobbed by like 600 Mexican people who are all my cousins. Like my stepdad came from a very, very large Mexican family in the Oxnard area. I still have like 6 cousins here who I see all the time. But back then I couldn't really be in the public.
When do you get high for the first time? When do you start drinking and using drugs? It's gotta be around now, right?
Oh yeah, around 8 or 9, I think. I was wandering around feeling kind of weird, like I just didn't fit in. I didn't belong. Like I couldn't go hang out with kids at school. I couldn't be around adults. They would recognize me. They'd bug me, ask me for my autograph. I didn't like that. I didn't like being famous. And at one point my show was number 1. There were only 3 networks, so everybody watched it.
Yeah. Well, no, I realized that when my dad knew it, because my dad is not a big TV guy, but he immediately knew the show. And so I was like, okay, obviously this was huge because my father was watching it in the 70s and he's not a TV guy.
I'm really glad that it meant something to somebody. It was a single dad raising a son in a very sweet way, and it was a sweet show. It was a little sappy, it was a little corny. I definitely was not Eddie, but the adults doing the show, they had their way of celebrating, when the ratings were big or when Bill got nominated for an Emmy or what have you, whatever went on, there was always champagne or there was, these guys smoked weed constantly. It smelled like my house, in the production office. And I was a curious kid. And when they had an emotion and they took a pill or took a drink or took a smoke or something or a hit or I was wandering around my dad's bar and I was sipping beers and they thought it was cute. And I would, you know, have hold a cigarette and they'd be like, "Oh, let's take a picture." And they thought it was funny and some of them weren't cigarettes and I would light them and I would cough and I would see a pill on the ground and I'd be like, "Everybody seemed really happy last night. I think they were taking those." And I would take it. And sometimes I just sit there in bed going, fuck, and that was, probably not the right thing to take if you wanted to sleep. And other times I would have really vivid dreams. So I don't know what I was taking, but I
Yeah,
was
okay.
taking it because it was always around. So it's like 8 or 9.
Yeah, when is your first conscious memory of using on
By 10, I'm
purpose?
doing it with purpose.
Okay.
By 10, I'm thinking, I kind of feel shitty or, I want to smoke some weed. Definitely gonna smoke some weed. I had older aunts who weren't that much older than me who would get me high. And then we'd go horseback riding. And that was fun because we could go out to a friend's ranch way outside of Oxnard in Camarillo and ride horses. And they trained horses and stuff and they had horses. So I could go and ride with them and they would smoke weed and they'd give me some. And they'd let me sip beers. And I remember first hard liquor I drank, I just, didn't like it. But I'd made myself like it. Right. I felt out of place. I felt weird anyways. I might as well start feeling different. And that gave me a different feeling. And then I forgot about you're famous kid or you're going to get mobbed if you go there. And then I just didn't give a fuck. I just numbed myself to everything. So I could just get through those feelings of confusion of, my little brain trying to keep up with what, you know, adult things were happening to a child.
Right. So how do things start to escalate through like 10, 11, 12? Are you finishing school? Are you going to school? And what do drugs and your acting career start to look like into your teen years?
Okay, Eddie's father ends in 1972. I'm in 4th or 5th grade. Was I? I was 10. Yeah, I was almost 5th grade. I have finished 8th grade. I'm going into 9th grade scholastically. According to the state, all the tests that they have turned in, I'm already in high school and I haven't even started junior high. I get Kung Fu, Medical Center, Gunsmoke, blah, 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 blah. I do all these TV show guest stars. one after the other. I keep going to school on the set with a tutor where all I do is take tests and pass on to the next grade and pass on to the next grade. By the time I'm 13 and I'm doing Bad News Bears, I have officially finished the high school curriculum for the state of California. I have finished all schooling. I am a senior, but I'm 13. So I don't have a driver's license. I'm not yet in high school, but I've passed everything. So what's a very, you know, well-known kid to do when he has a lot of time on his hands and realizes he can manipulate the fuck out of people, but just get high a lot. So I do Bad News Bears and I get high every day. They had beers for the crew because it was hot in the summer when we filmed it, and there were trash cans full of Heineken on ice, and I would grab some at lunch, and I had weed, and I would smoke it, and I would drink, and one of the other guys he was on the Bears. We would go off into the field, and there was an extra, this girl who was 19, and she had a Camaro and a house down the street, and she smoked weed and she liked beer and she had a Camaro, and I was a curious kid, and one thing led to another, and I lost my virginity to that 19-year-old girl. Bless her little heart. I was 13, and she did not take advantage of a 13-year-old. I was a very highly sexualized 13-year-old who was far beyond his years, and I'd seen a lot. It didn't necessarily translate into I was, an amazing,
Right.
Latin lover or anything, but I thought I rocked her world. And so I just started dating older girls. Like I got to go to high school and I immediately went, that senior girl. Yeah. And I was intercepting residuals and I had a lot of cash. I was taking money that should have been put in the bank and I was just taking it. Like I cashed a $36,000 check from Bad News Bears. And I had $36,000 in my wallet
And you were 13?
when I was 13. So I bought a pound of weed and I bought a bunch of coke and I bought a ticket to Australia. And I went surfing.
And you went to Australia by yourself?
I took 2 friends
Okay.
and I drank myself into a blackout on the plane. And they told me I was doing cocaine with the stewardesses. And I kind of came to in Sydney and I called my grandma and she goes, "Are you coming home for dinner?" I go, "No, Grandma, I'm in Sydney." And she goes, "Sydney, who's that? I don't think I've met him." I go, "No, Sydney, Australia." And she's like, "Oh, oh, okay." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm with Rory and Jerry and these pro surfers I knew." And she's like, "Oh, well, tell them hi. Have fun." Grandma was oblivious. And nobody knew what I was doing. I was just I emancipated myself at 13 or 14. And then I discovered punk rock in London when I was 14 and met the Ramones and I got into punk rock and I went to New York. My uncle was an art director and he knew all the people involved in that and Warhol and shit. And because I was that kid from TV, I got into all these places and
Did you go to Studio 54? Was that still a thing?
that wasn't quite yet. I went to Studio 54 later
Later. Okay.
with Tatum and, just did stupid shit. And
So you and Tatum, and of course we mean Tatum O'Neal, you guys remain friends after Bad News Bears?
yeah,
Okay, you stay in contact. Okay.
yeah. I was jet setting around, spending money and, being, staying in hotels, doing whatever I
So
wanted.
you're in London when you meet the Ramones and you get into punk rock. When do you realize that you can sing? Is it around now also?
Oh no, I don't know. I can sing until 79. My friends were starting a band and they were a Yes cover band and they were all hippie surfers. They were all older than me. And I said, "You guys suck and this music is horrible. You need to go to a punk rock gig." And they went, "What the what?" And so I took them to the Starwood to see Black Flag and one guy cut his hair in the parking lot. And then we started doing punk rock.
Okay, so when does heroin into okay, so basically you're not in school, you're traveling around, you're doing coke, you're drinking, you're partying with people. When
Well, I'm in
does
school, but I'm never going. And
Okay,
the
okay.
the principal sat me down and said, "Look, if you show up once a week, we just won't bug you." I couldn't even do that. But so I dropped out of high school and then got my GED at like when I was 16, I could drop out. So I did, but by mail. And then I took the GED when I was 20, I think, because I guess I needed it for something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's blurry. What was your favorite city of all the ones that you just said, though, when you were, like, a teenager, when you would go around to places? What was, like, your favorite one to go to?
I really liked Prague. I liked Berlin. I liked London. I liked New York, and I liked Waikiki because it you could drive out to the North Shore. Sydney. I mean, I jet set it. I've been to. My son and I were trying to figure out how many countries I've been to at like 100 something. We were just like, just all but those stands in the middle of the Middle East. Like I probably
Right.
haven't been to.
Right,
But
yeah,
I was
yeah,
in
yeah.
Russia when they were all part of Russia. So I don't know. I've been a lot of places.
How would you find drugs when you were traveling?
I was in Israel in 1972 doing a movie, and the guy in the crew asked me if I wanted some hash. So people just offered it. And I surfed, and I was at the beginning of the pro surf tour. I had friends who were pro surfers, so I would go and follow them on the road, and there were drugs everywhere. Hell, the surf industry was kind of built on coke smuggling. And so there's a lot of cocaine, and there's a lot of weed, and there's a lot of drinking, and then, going to the celeb parties. I was in New York, and I knew where people hung out. I knew Studio 54. I knew where Bianca Jagger lived. I knew where people hung out at night. I knew the Mud Club. I knew I just knew the spots. And I'd show up, and I'd get in, and you just got drugs.
Do you have, like, at least one crazy, like, Studio 54 or club, like, story from those years that you could tell that was crazy, like, just something insane that happened?
Well, I met John Travolta through James Comack because James Comack produced Welcome Back, Kotter. And we were all in New York for an award ceremony where Jimmy was getting some award. And afterwards, everybody ended up at Studio 54. And we were in tuxedos. And I remember sitting in one area of Studio 54, and I'm doing coke off the table. And this guy sits down next to me, and he goes, you probably shouldn't be doing that. And it's Travolta. So John is lecturing me on the evils of cocaine usage. And I look up, and having a conversation, one guy sitting on the couch, one guy standing there, is Robert De Niro and Barry Manilow. And somebody took a picture, and I still have it. So at one point in my life, I was doing cocaine in Studio 54 with Robert De Niro, John Travolta, and Barry Manilow. Now, how those three were together in the same room, I have no fucking idea. But they were.
That's pretty
And
cool.
I was there. So,
That's pretty cool.
and I had coke in front of me. And I remember Mick and Bianca were there, and Michael Jackson and Tatum and Warhol and Grace Jones, and I just on and on. Just it was a celeb evening at Studio 54, and it was probably a Tuesday. It just was. And I ran in and out of that world as I felt like it. It wasn't my everyday. I would end up back in Oxnard and go to my grandparents' house and say hi, and they'd ask me, how have I been? Because I always said I was at my mom's, and told my mom I was at my grandparents', and neither of them knew where I was. They all thought I was with somebody else. So I would go off on these trips, and I went to Bali in 1975 by myself because I heard there were waves there, and I went back last year for my 50th year anniversary of surfing this wave called Uluwatu. And I've lived such a bizarre life that now that I've been sober almost 30 years, and I have 2 kids, and responsibility, and I look back at my 20s, I'm like, wow.
Right. I mean, can you imagine your kids doing that? Like, your kids would never have done that when they were teenagers. So
They were to do it now.
right, yeah,
They
yeah.
know better. They know dad, like they know I went to Hillmont Mental Health 4 times. The first time because I injected LSD for 5 days straight and
Well, tell
went
me
into
that
psych.
story. When is that? When is that?
Oh, this was later. This was later in like 1981. My friends were bouncing at a punk rock club in Hollywood, and they were taking things away from people like spike bracelets and drugs that they found on them. They were like, throw this in a box, we're keeping this. And somebody who worked at the Hollywood Palladium grabbed the box and threw it in the dumpster. And they looked down and they went, "Where's the fucking box?" They had taken a sheet of acid from somebody. So we ran to the dumpster and we found it, but somebody had thrown a Coke in, and the Coca-Cola had soaked into the big baggie, the big Ziploc that had the acid in it. So we took it home and we pulled out the sheet of acid and we dried it. And then we cut it all up and put it in a baggie. And we kept the Coca-Cola because it had soaked all the acid in it, some of it. And we put all the little hits of acid in a paper bag, and we rolled dice. And then you would get a number and you would pull out hits of acid and then take them. And then people would be like, "Did you get the ones that were like super soaked, or did you get the ones that were like just pieces of paper now?" Because the Coke had taken it all out of it. And then we ran out of that a couple days later, but somebody still had the baggie that had the Coca-Cola in it. And I was bored and I was by myself and we didn't have anything left. And I went, "I bet you could do that." So I shot some.
The Coca-Cola.
And it burned. It
Yeah,
fucking burned. But before I pulled the needle out, I was peaking on LSD. Just
immediately,
plunger in, tripping balls, peaking as high as you could be. And I
Holy
went,
shit.
and I did it for 5 days. And then I went to get a burrito wearing boxers and one sock in the rain on Christmas Eve. And I was standing in the middle of the street trying to order a burrito from a burrito stand that was 50 feet in front of me. I thought I was in line. And a cop who knew me pulled up. And this is like 5 p.m. So it's starting to get kind of dark on Christmas Eve. And it's kind of rainy. And I'm almost naked. And he's like, "Cruz, do you need help?" And I guess my eyes were just saucering. And I'm like, "I'm just trying to order a burrito, bro. You want anything?" And he goes, "I want you to get in the car." And I thought that was a good idea. And he took me to Hillmont Mental Health. And I spent Christmas in Hillmont Mental Health. And I was strapped to a gurney, and then I was given Thorazine, and I walked in a circle with people, the cuckoo's nest stuff, and had an assless robe. And yeah, that was my first lap of Hillmont Mental Health. I ended up there a few more times for cocaine psychosis. They thought it was a suicide. It was just I took way too many Xanax. And what else did I get in there for? I don't know. Probably another cocaine psychosis. I really like coke.
Yeah. Did you shoot it? Were you shooting cocaine? Is that how it led to the psychosis?
Yeah, because we were sniffing it, and then somebody said, "It's a lot better when you shoot it." I'm like, I'll never do that. But when you say I'll never do that and you're a drug addict, you should just say yet. I haven't done that yet, because everything I said I would never do, I did.
Do you remember the cocaine psychosis event that got you into the mental health hospital? Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Yeah. I knew a Peruvian in Hawaii who gave me a bunch of coke that if I could get it to California and give it to another guy, he would be very happy and he would reward me. So I thought that was a good idea. And I did, and I got away with it. And then I kept trying to get a hold of the guy that I was supposed to give it to, and he wouldn't answer his phone. So I thought I could just try some of it because I hear it's really good. And it was that pure pink champagne-y Peruvian shit. And I don't know how much of it I did, but I ended up freaking out some neighbors, and they called the cops, and the cops came in. I wasn't arrested for possession. I was arrested, or I was just taken to the mental hospital.
So wait, you brought it here on an airplane? You smuggled it on a plane?
Yeah.
How did you smuggle it on the plane?
Prison wallet.
Okay. Easy. Easy answer.
It's convenient. It
Yeah.
doesn't hurt long.
Of course.
It's cocaine,
Okay.
Yeah. The secret to smuggling cocaine in your prison wallet is to use the cocaine on said prison wallet before you fill it.
Right, because it relaxes it, opens it or something?
It's a mucous membrane, and it gets very numb.
Right. Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Brandon, you think after all these years I would have known that, but that totally makes sense what you just said. You've had a crazy okay, so hold on. when does heroin come into the picture? And I want to talk a little bit more about the punk scene also. So, because I know this all kind of overlaps. So you end up in the punk scene. When does heroin enter the picture?
Heroin was around in the surf scene by older crazy fuckers that like to lace it in joints. And they'd smoke a little heroin before they'd surf pipeline because they were so used to surfing big, crazy, scary waves. They thought, let's add a little element of who fucking knows to it. So they'd smoke Cocoa Puffs, which had Coke in the joint, and sometimes they would chase the dragon. So they'd lace it with a little smack. And there wasn't a ton of heroin on the North Shore in the 70s, but there was enough. And I was always like, no needles, I'm not. And then I smoked one of those joints. I was like, oh, that's different. I got back to the States. Punk rock was jumping off. I held my own pretty well with drugs, but the harder drugs like the heroin stuff, I knew these guys were shooting it in the punk scene, and I snorted a few times with this guy, and he's like, "Man, we just got to get a rig. It's so much better." And the first time you do it, it's like, I don't know. It's like the last time they strapped me with nitrous for a filling or a root canal or something. The nurse put it on me, and I'd been sober for years, and she put it on me, and it took like 3 breaths, and I just went, I'm so high. I took it off. I went, no, I'll just do this on the natch. And she goes, why? And I just looked at her. I go, it's like coming in the mouth of God. And she was shocked. And I go, no, that's the feeling of heroin. And I never want to feel that again because I like it too much.
Yeah.
So the first time I shot heroin was that gnarly. And I went, I never want to do anything else.
Okay.
And I went for it. So punk rock had heroin, and I lost a lot of friends to overdoses, and I lost a lot of friends to AIDS, and I lost a lot of friends to Hep C. And why I didn't contract anything, I have no idea. I was not safe. I was not smart. I didn't have Narcan. I didn't have test strips. I didn't have harm reduction people like Tracy Helton or Suki to tell me any different. I just was in this crazy drug scene, and we went for it, and people suffered the consequences, and somehow I managed to go through it relatively unscathed. I mean, I had got cotton fever a couple times. That was You dealt with it. It
Dude,
went
I
away.
got cotton fever once, and it was awful. I was at my mother's house. My poor mom, she thought I was getting clean while I was there, and I got cotton fever, and I was like, "Ugh," it was the worst thing ever, and I walked out, and I was like, "I need you to take I'm not even gonna bullshit you right now. I'm fucking still high, and I need you to take me to my connect's house right now, mom, please." And she was like, "What? What?" And I was like, "Just this can't be the time that we do this." I was like in agony. And my poor mom, I'm screaming and she's screaming, saying, "We need to take you to the hospital." And I was like, "No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to take me over here to this neighborhood." And she did. And that was the only time I got cotton fever. And the only cure for it is to do another shot of heroin. I never got it. As far as I know, I don't know if there's another way through it. That's what I did.
Well,
And
no,
it went
you got to
away.
flesh it out. You got to
Yeah.
flesh it out because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just. I don't want to tell any beginning listeners how to do things because it's not a good idea.
Right. Right.
Doing
Right.
these needles is probably the best idea.
Yeah, yeah, and man, you're lucky you didn't get Hep C because there's the cure now because I got Hep C, but I got the cure in 2018. It's 3 months of pills, and I think I only had it for a few years, you know what I mean? No liver damage, but, like, so many people from then, even if they did interferon, like my friend that I was telling you about who owned the rehab, he still got complications from it later with liver cancer. So what ages are we talking?
How many people do we know that got sober that then died of complications like years later?
Well, this is what yeah, my friend Steve, he'd been sober 30 years.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that is a drug-related death. That's
Absolutely, absolutely.
not an
Yeah.
absolute overdose, but drugs were the cause of death.
Yeah.
Even though you
Yeah.
hadn't done them years and years, liver, pancreatic things, kidney things. It's like your whole filtration system suffered. I don't know why. Like I keep getting tested. I'm almost obsessive about going to the doctor and saying, draw my blood, check my kidney, check my liver, give me my numbers. What are my enzymes? He's like, how do you know this? I'm like, I need to know this
Yeah, totally.
because I'm
So,
very seeing people.
yeah. So let's talk about dead Kennedys. You end up seeing for the dead Kennedys, and that must Oh, you're sober when you're singing with them, right?
I was. I
Okay,
was.
so what did the years look like leading up to getting into the hotel room where your wife leaves you the note? Like, let's talk about those.
Okay, so the 70s, I discovered punk rock. 76, 77, I'm in New York. I'm seeing bands. I'm doing some drugs. Hollywood, 79 to 80, I'm doing more drugs. 81, I'm doing heroin. 88, 89, I'm smuggling heroin from Bali to Hawaii like an idiot. I don't get caught. I'm smuggling cocaine to California. I'm not operating very well. I'm very skinny. I'm very withdrawn, all sucked up. My friends are seeing me for the first time in a long time because I was always off in some foreign hellhole doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And I'm white and I'm pale, and they're like, "We thought you were on a surf trip, and you're all skinny and white, like, and I had track marks and just I didn't look good." And then the punk scene, I joined Dr. No in 81. I quit by 83. I'm married at 21 or 22 to a woman that we just did drugs together. That marriage lasted a minute. I take off again. I'm backtracking. And I go to Hawaii and I go to Bali and I go and I do all this crazy shit. I end up back in LA around 90, 91, and punk rock has changed. It's all weird. It's pop punk and it's just kind of safe. And so I'm in it and I'm not, and I'm skating, but I'm not. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm not doing heroin much anymore. Nobody here I know is into it. The skaters are getting healthy, surfers are getting trainers and eating healthy. I'm like, this is weird. The punks are still doing drugs, so I'm just kind of like the 90s were a blur of I'm trying to find a job. I'm trying to see what I can do. I can barely put shit together. I'm scrambling for money. I'm broke. I'm living with friends. I got a piece of shit car. I got a skateboard, a couple of surfboards, and half a pack of cigarettes and a couple of beers. Like I'm just getting by.
Do you ever go to treatment during any of this time? Do you ever think I'm a drug addict, I need help? Or you just kind of go in and out of kicking heroin on your own and then you go back into it? Like,
I mean, I kicked and it was I threw up and I slept and I shit and I sweat and then I'd pop a little or I'd smoke a little and snort a little and be like kind of right. So it was just
okay,
kind of
okay. But no treatment or meetings or anything,
no,
huh?
I didn't know anything about that stuff. I mean,
Okay.
my mom had done the Synanon and they shaved her head and she wandered around naked. I walked in there with a guy from the TV show and there's like, when your mom walks up to you bald headed and naked, you're like, this is drug treatment? Like,
She went to
fucking
sit it on?
yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, there's that whole chapter too that I don't know that much about. I gotta look into that.
Wow, me neither. That's like lore of lore. That's like the junkie lore of all time.
Yeah,
Synanon.
so I guess they filled her full of acid and shaved her head and they wandered around
Wow.
naked.
I think they chained you to beds there, right? I think
I
they
don't know.
chained you, and that was the
I
detox.
will find more out, but it's
Yeah,
pretty
me
interesting.
too. They had a Synanon poster at that rehab that I told you about. It was like a rock and roll rehab, and there was a big Synanon picture on the wall that we used to look at all the time, and it was like a lady with shaved head, chained with it was just wild. That's yeah,
I
that's
probably
that's
taught
like
surfing at the rehab you were at. I taught surfing at
choices.
rehab a lot.
Okay.
I started surfing teaching surfing at rehabs like 29, 30 years ago.
Well, this was down in San Diego. I don't know if you but in North County,
Oh,
San
no, yeah, I
Diego.
I was in the Malibu
Right,
Riviera,
yeah, yeah. Well, now
fancy
yeah,
blue
yeah.
blue
No, I
era,
was in very not fancy spots, not fancy at all, but it was cool. It was cool.
bougie places. That
Yeah, yeah,
sounds like
yeah. It
actually
was
some of
great,
the
dude. He was so fucking cool, Steve Bogard. He died of Hep C complications after he had 40 years, but
yeah, that's
he was a surfer dude and he would sit like it was a very cool, fun rock and roll rehab. It was really cool. I loved it. It was actually like people don't usually love rehabs, but I left mine.
people that I work with when they say, "Yeah, I don't know if I can get sober. I'm gonna be so bored. It's gonna be so boring." I'm like, dude, I travel the world. I fucking surf. I skate. I snowboard. I go all over. I do what I want. I'm still in a band. I travel all over for my band. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in amazing places. I can't remember how many countries I've been to, all in sobriety. I'm like, I can do whatever I want. I know what I'm doing. Like, come with me. Let me show you. I take people to this place in Bali that's an amazing rehab. I think it's the best rehab in the world, personally. And I show them an experience down there that they've never, ever gone through. And they come back and you're just like, wow, that was something. And it's so much cheaper than a rehab in the States because it's not filled with greed. But anyways,
Yeah, so I jumped you off your timeline. So
that's okay.
90s, let's go back to the
I
90s.
was
Okay.
I was all fucked up in the 90s. Around 92, I met a woman. And she had seen a Geraldo that I had done an interview for, high as fuck, about where are they now. Well, nobody knew where I was because I was out doing whatever it was I was doing, and I was on it with, I think, Bonaducci and who else was on that show? Butch Patrick, Eddie Munster. There were some people, and I talked, and I was hungover and high and just fucked up. And for some reason, the woman who fell in love with me by watching that show realized and said to her friend, "I'm going to marry him." And she goes, "Brandon? Oh my God. He's in Dr. No. You know him. He's a fucking drug addict. No." And she's like, "Yep, I'm going to marry him. I'm going to have his kids." And a couple of years pass, and the woman who was told this information calls me and says, "Are you single?" And this was in 1992. I said, "Yes. Yes, I am." And I was. And she goes, "Here's this girl's number. You'll like her, but promise me you won't marry her." And this is the woman who had introduced me to my first wife. I'm like, "Oh, God, no, I'm never getting married again. Are you kidding?" And I had a pretty healthy drug habit at that time. And I meet this woman at my band is playing. We play in Hollywood. I invite her. We finish the set. I'm looking around for my friends. I don't see anybody. I go to the bar. I get 2 beers. I turn around and this hand comes through the crowd, says, "Hi." And I just go, "Want a beer?" First words I ever said to her. 2 weeks later, I moved in with her. A year later, we were married. A year after that, we had a kid. And 13 months later, she told me I had to get sober.
And you do.
So it was like that.
Well,
I went from I'm shooting dope, I'm eating Xanax, I'm drinking Jaeger and beer for breakfast, to I need your help. You're sponsoring me. I don't care if you have 8 months or 8 years. You're doing this. And this guy picked me up the next morning and took me to a meeting, August 21st, 1994 or 96. When did I get sober?
96, you said, yeah.
90, yeah, because it'll be 30 years this year. Yeah. So I met her in 92, and by 96, I was sober.
Wow. And this is the person that's going to give you 30 years in 2 months. The
Yeah.
same
And
woman.
I'm sober to this day and no relapse. And just, I got into service real early. I met a guy who helped some people get sober that were in a band, and he spoke in LA. And I went up to him and I went, "That sounds really cool." And he goes, "Yeah, you want to do it? I can't do 2 jobs at once." And he gave me a job.
Wait, doing what? Doing what? Doing what? What was the job?
I sat in a trailer with this actor who wasn't supposed to drink while he filmed, and he didn't drink. And they thought that was great, because the insurance company wouldn't give a completion bond to the movie if he was left unchecked. So I had to sit on this guy. And I asked the dude that told me, he could get me the job. I go, "What do I do? Like, do I take him through the steps?" He goes, "No, this isn't AA. This is a job. You're getting paid." I was like, "I'm getting paid?" And I kept getting jobs from this guy because the first one worked out. And I started doing it. And I kept doing it. And then he had shit happen, and he kind of went away, and he died a while back. And
So not Bob Forrest.
no, no.
Okay.
I knew Bob from Thelonious Monster, and we partied together and we played music together, but we never did
Worked in
anything
recovery
solo.
together. Okay, okay.
I mean, I saw him recently and said hi to him, but other than that, we've never. No, I mean, I love Bob. It's fucking
So
awesome.
so this was like early days of what we would call now a sober companion.
Yeah, but we didn't really have a name for it. It was just I would check in with this guy and be like, hey, this guy wants to go to these meetings. This guy doesn't want God. He wants, I don't know what he fucking wants. I'm like, oh, wait, I heard about that dude from Santa Cruz that used to come see my band. He wrote that thing about Refuge Recovery. So I took a guy to a meditation. I was 17 years sober. So it was 13 years ago. And I was at one of Noah Levine's meetings. And I went, oh my God, this is how you meditate? Because, we saw it through prayer and meditation. I thought that was like saying the fucking, serenity prayer to yourself while you're driving to work. And I did a half an hour meditation. I'm like, this is it. So I go to Third and Gardner, my home group, and I'm the 40-minute speaker, and I'm like, I'm going to tell everybody I'm quitting AA and I'm going to meditate. And Noah was at the fucking meeting. And he's like, hey, Cruz, what are you doing? And I go, dude, I went to one of your meetings. It was amazing. I'm quitting AA. I'm going to just dedicate myself to going to Refuge. And he goes, why would you fucking do that? Oh, because this is boring, man. I've heard everybody's speech. I know all these old timers. They're all fucking boring. It's Hollywood AA. It's like, I've been here for 17 years, dude. I'm done. I'm doing you. And he goes, find your balance. Don't quit this. This saved our lives. These are our people. And I looked in that room, like a couple hundred people at Third and Gardner, and I went, wow, 17 years ago, that guy was here, and that guy was there, and that guy was here. And these are my people, and these are my friends, and these are people I can count on. So I found my balance. So I do a little refuge, and I meditate, and I go to some of Noah's stuff, and I go to a 12-step group, and I maintain relationships in there, and I have a men's group that I check in with every morning, and I found a balance, and I do it. And so when people now call me and they ask me, what's going to help me? I say, I don't know, because I don't know what's going to help them, because I didn't know that 12 steps were going to save me. I didn't know that refuge was going to sustain me. I didn't know that putting the two together was going to be the magic elixir that I needed. I had no idea. So when somebody says, I need help, what do? I don't fucking know. But let's get together, put our heads together, we'll figure it out. Because I've been around long enough to have gone to just about every kind of meeting, Smart Recovery, Life Ring. I've taken people to everything. I know what works for me. I don't know what's going to work for somebody else.
Can you explain what refuge is? Because I love this part of your story. So 12 step, and then you get into refuge. Somebody's got no idea what it is. Because I kind of don't. I know a little bit. How do you explain to somebody what is refuge recovery? What's the difference?
Well, in the 70s, there was a man named Stephen Levine who was an early American Buddhist teacher, and he had a son, and his name's Noah. And Noah was a fucking psycho. And Noah was in and out of juvenile hall, and Noah was a very angry, very violent, crazy punk rock skateboarder kid from Santa Cruz. And he liked my band. And he would fuck shit up at our gigs. And the next time we were in Santa Cruz, he wouldn't be there. And I'd ask, where's that crazy kid? And they're like, oh, he's in juvie again. So Noah gets out of juvie one year, or jail, and is talking to his dad. He's like, I don't know what to fucking do. And his dad goes, dude, just meditate. And he's like, fuck you, hippies. Because Noah was not down with the hippies. And because they were just all, acid taking peace and love and fucking get naked in the hot tub Santa Cruz people. And then they found Buddha and changed their lives and started writing books and meditating and shunned all, drugs. They renounced anything that affected them, that kept them from their spiritual connection. And Noah started meditating, and he went, oh, he saw some improvement. So he wrote about his experience, and he ended up writing a book called Refuge Recovery. He wrote Dharma Punks. He wrote Against the Stream. He wrote I'll mangle it, something about a revolution. I have all of his books somewhere around here. But basically, Refuge Recovery is a way of practicing renunciation, meditating, and concentrating on the heart practices. I'm going to mangle this, and he'll probably yell at me about it, but that's okay. Because he's not my sponsor, he's my mentor. You don't have a sponsor in Refuge, you have a mentor, and they talk you through this stuff. They're very in-depth. It's like doing 12 4 steps. There's a lot of writing, there's a lot of lists. like, he didn't take the 12 steps and rearrange them and make them different. He just has his idea of what you have to do to maintain a sober lifestyle, a lifestyle of renunciation. What a lot of people are attracted to about Refuge rather than 12 step is you don't identify as an addict or an alcoholic. And some people find that a stigma. I never had a problem with it. I don't care. But at Refuge, you just say, I'm so and so. And it's a given that because the Buddha says when you're born into suffering. So everybody is suffering. And we suffer because we crave things to be different. And when we can accept that everything is going to be different eventually because it's all impermanent, and that we should get used to being in pain and suffering and just don't give a fuck about it and just say, you know what, let go or get drugged. And we let go and we cease to let outside shit affect us. And we live in the moment right now. Right now, it's like this. And right now, this is fucking pretty good.
Right.
If we can stay in that suspended state of right now, there's not a problem in the world. Well, the Buddha could do it and sustained it for however long he did, 40 plus years. That's the goal with Refuge, is just don't take anything that affects you from the neck up. Renounce all behaviors, whether it's, power, greed, money, sex, food, whatever. Just don't. Just don't. Because there's a lot of what they call it cross addiction or co-occurring disorder or whatever. It's just, it's yeah, I quit drugs, but I kept drinking caffeine. I kept smoking. Caffeine's a drug, nicotine's a drug. There was the whole straight edge movement where it's like you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't fuck, you don't do anything that affects your brain. And like those kids took it to an extreme. There was a punk rock movement, the straight edge thing. And the guy who wrote the song about his personal beliefs was drinking a tea, and a kid came up to him and said, "You're not straight edge. My friend says tea is a drug." And he said, "You know what? Tell your friend, fuck you." Because it was just a personal belief of this guy's, but it got put into a whole big thing. Now, Noah's way of putting it into a thing that he meant for it to be, put out there and shared, it's a whole different thing. And it's given me a balance because I didn't meditate and I didn't know how to quiet my mind and I didn't know how to be, and I still am practicing meditation because you're never good at it. You're never great at it. You can't perfectly not think about anything because the brain does what the brain does. It thinks, and it will in the middle of like, I am so meditating and I'm thinking about how I'm meditating and I fucked up again. And that's how quick it happens. And then know you're breathing in when you breathe in, know you're breathing out when you breathe out. Keep going. Then I got yoga. I got into all this fucking stuff. It's like the guy who hated hippies and just thought my mom was a crazy hippie and didn't like any of that shit. It's like I'm doing yoga, I'm eating healthy, I'm I'm fasting, I'm meditating, I'm on spiritual retreats where I'm silent for 7 days. I'm like, well, who the fuck am I? Like, oh, I'm somebody who wants to get better. I'm somebody who wants to be well. And I'm not doing drugs currently. I'm not drinking alcohol currently. I'm very active. I'm healthy, but I'm probably not well. I still have this brain that says whatever it says. I mean, I can't control it. It's
Yeah, I wanna ask you about the meditation thing because that's common, right? The idea that because I'm 11 years sober, and meditation is still a struggle for me. You said you went to that meeting and they had you meditate and it was different. What about it was different? Because I tried different things. What about it was different, and what exactly is, like, your meditation practice now, the one that you discovered was transformative at 17 years? I know it doesn't always work, but what do you do now that became different, that made it feel better?
in the early 70s. There were two brothers that lived right by me in Oxnard, and they shaped surfboards, and they wrote "Be mindful" on every surfboard, and nobody knew what it meant. Refuge Recovery teaches mindful meditation. And to be mindful is just a way of behaving and understanding that your actions have reactions and that the secret to being in the moment is to know that your reaction to whatever person's action is on you. So it doesn't matter what somebody else does. It matters how you react to it. If you accept it with kindness and openness and a willingness to be with that situation, it doesn't affect you as much or not at all, because it's basically living and forgiving and accepting that this is the way this is right now in this moment. When you do the forgiveness practice of meditation, you ask for forgiveness and you offer forgiveness for yourself, for others, as much as you can in this moment, because you can't do more than you can do. So, my first meditation with Refuge Recovery was a guided 30-minute heart practice of loving kindness. Then I found this app on the internet from UCLA, the UCLA Mindful app. And there's a teacher named Diana Winston who practices mindfulness. And she has a lot of guided meditations that are about a half an hour long. And those are amazing. And then I discovered a teacher, a Buddhist meditation teacher named Stephen Brensilver, who's like the Stephen Wright of Buddhist teachers, because he's really dry and talks very monotonous and is super funny. So there's a sense of humor to it. And like if you every Monday night, Noah does a Dharma talk and a meditation on Against the Stream. Against the Stream is the Buddhist meditation aspect of it, which is not recovery oriented. And then Refuge Recovery is the actual, it has the book and the way you go through the booklet and you do all the inventories. That's more like recovery AA kind of type of stuff. But the thing that he does on Monday, he's in front of the camera. It's on Zoom, or you can go live in Monica where he does it. And I mean, the guy's an old punk rocker. He wears old punk rock T-shirts, and he was really into hardcore punk rock, and he cusses like a sailor. And you'll see like these really straight, like Buddhist scholars that come in, like, oh, let's see what this young man from Los Angeles has to offer. And he sits down and he looks around and he's like, all right, so I got somewhere to be, so let's fucking meditate fast, all right? And they're just like, what? But he connects with a younger crowd, people that ask me for help that are like, I don't want to hear God. I'm like, okay, we're going to Noah. But they say Buddha. And some people are like, no, I'm not real down with this, is weird. But it resonates with some people. So it's not for everyone, but I think everyone should give it a shot if they're looking for something different, because it helped me. I don't know if it's going to help somebody else, but it might. And to cut yourself off from a modality that may help you is, I don't know, maybe overlooking something. So I don't want to see anybody over anything.
Yeah. Against the Stream, that's the website. And then what was the app from UCLA?
UCLA Mindful. If you just Google UCLA Mindful or Diana Winston guided meditations, and Against the Stream is his Dharma talk and his guided meditation. Refuge Recovery is another website where there's a lot of meetings online. So it's just like an AA meeting, and there's a secretary, and you do certain things, and then there's a meditation, and it's a guided meditation. It's like 15-20 minutes, and it's usually a mindful oriented one, or the heart practices, which are teachings that the Buddha added on later, because there's the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths in the Eightfold Path of the Buddha. And there's certain teachings that go along and certain meditations that go along with different ones, and they all correlate. And it's all lists of this. And there's the fourth factor of the eighth fold. And I mean, it's just complicated math.
Yeah.
Weird shit.
Yeah.
I let them figure it all out. I just
Right.
sit and listen.
No, that's really, really, really cool. That's really cool.
It's really peaceful. It's quiet. It's calming. And mindfulness. If you listen to the woman on the UCLA app, Diana Winston, she goes into the science of why it works and how it works, and how it can slow down your heart rate, and how it can ease some anxiety, and how it can help people with just racing minds. And it affects you when you do well for yourself, when you change your diet, when you change your exercise, you see results. when you change the way you think or the way you breathe, you will also see results. And I was a huge skeptic to all that stuff for the longest time because I was just like, no hippies, because I was a punk rocker. But then I started dating this girl who was very into astrology, and she's like, "What's your sign?" I'm like, "It's a stop sign. Don't fucking ask me that." I went through that with my mom. I'm terrorized by that shit. She's like, "You're a surfer, and the moon moves the tides 4 times a day, and you don't think there's a power in that?" I was like, "Tell me more." So, get my interest, and you have my interest. Going to Refuge Recovery, I went, "I need to know more." Then I saw Noah, I'm like, "I'm going to you." And he's like, "We'll stay in AA, but come to me too." And then I got together with him. I'm like, "Dude, let's do this." And he's like, "Okay, let's go." And almost 14 years later, I'm still going to Refuge as well as going to 12-step stuff. So I found balance and I'm open to whatever else presents itself. Like I had a client who was looking for help not too long ago, like 6 months ago. And they go, "I think I need therapy. I think I need EMDR." I go, "I've heard of that. I know a guy that does that. He teaches it to other, practitioners." And they said, "Yeah, I want to do it. What's it like?" And I go, "I don't know. I'll get back to you." So I called this practitioner. I'm like, "Take me through EMDR." So I'm undergoing EMDR right now just to see what it's like. And it's pretty fucking cool.
It is cool. I've done a little bit of yeah, I did a little bit of that. Okay, so I have to ask, when you were involved, and I wanna get back to the Buddhism stuff in a second, but while I'm thinking about it, I don't wanna forget. When you were involved in bands while you were sober, like the Dead Kennedys in the 2000s, you're already sober. Was it hard for you to stay sober in that scene, and what did you do to help yourself? Because a lot of people that are into, like, live music, once they first get sober, they're like, "How am I gonna go and not use?" How did you stay in that scene and not use? Like, what'd you do?
I found it easy once I joined Dead Kennedys because I was like 4 or 5 years sober when I joined the band. When I was 3 days sober, coming home from a meeting with my sponsor, 3 days sober, still in like Depends and a robe and a puke bucket because I was so fucked up detoxing with no detox meds, no doctor, no rehab, no nothing. Just you're kicking heroin, Xanax, and alcohol at the same time. So you're puking and shitting your brains out and you can't form a sentence. But we're driving home. Oh shit, Slayer's playing. And we U-turn it and we go and watch Slayer at 3 days sober. And there's 800 people inside the Whiskey A Go-Go drinking, smoking, having a great time, all fucked up. And I know everybody in there. And I'm 3 days sober. And I got through it because I was with a group of people,
With a group of sober people. That's important, I think, what you just said.
with other sober people. So surround yourself with other sober people. So I didn't rejoin a band for the first year because I wanted to give myself time to, concentrate on getting and staying sober and getting into my recovery community, which my very first AA meeting, there was a fight, there was an ambulance, there were cops, there was an arrest. And then the guy who was speaking, I swear to God, we had overdosed and died together a year before, and he hadn't made it. And he gets up to speak. And I'm like, "You're dead." And he's like, "Hey, Brandon, glad to see you here. Been saving a seat for you." I didn't know what that meant at all, but he had gotten sober.
Bro, how did you kick not in a detox? That's crazy.
I kicked on my couch on a sheet of plastic.
Okay. How long were you sick? Do you remember? I know it was a long time ago, but how long were you sick?
3 weeks. Oh, I remember my detox very well. When I help people detox now, I want them to remember. There are things now you can take that are like you'll just sleep through it. It's like, kind of want you to remember this.
Oh, you think? You think it's better to do it not cold turkey, but
It's like getting a tattoo and getting knocked out and using numbing cream. Like, you fucking pussy, just do it.
yeah.
I mean,
I
I
used
I don't want anyone
yeah,
to die because,
right.
benzos or alcohol, you can die from, the seizure. I don't want anyone to die for sure. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I don't prescribe. I don't diagnose, but I definitely know that people need to have a medical detox and I will assist them with the help of a doctor and a nurse. I didn't have that luxury because it's pricey. And I didn't know I could die from the seizure. I mean, I was pretty naive to a lot of it. So I just did it for 3 weeks. But That was 96. So 2000, 2001 rolls around, Dead Kennedys are reforming. I'm at a party. I had sung for a band called Flipper. The drummer from Dead Kennedys had gotten me the gig with that. And then we're at another party, and the drummer of Flipper walks up and says, "Do you hear Dead Kennedys are getting back together to do a show? You should talk to DH, who was the drummer of Dead Kennedys, who is a good friend of mine." And because my band had opened for him in like 81, 82. And I talked to DH and he goes, yeah, interesting. Let me ask the guys. So he calls me the next day and he goes, "You want to go to San Francisco?" And I fly up to San Francisco and I walk into a rehearsal studio, and there's the guys. And we're talking, catching up. I hadn't seen him in a while, but there's no Jello Biafra because he's out of the band because there was a lawsuit and a bunch of bullshit. And they start playing a song, and I'm like, and they stop and like, "Are you going to sing?" I'm like, it's fucking Dead Kennedys. It's so overwhelming. So I got over that, and DH is sober at the time, and so am I. So we decide we're going to do one gig, and it creates a lot of backlash in the punk rock world. People are like, punk rock's sacred. You can't do it. How dare you? It's Biafra or nothing. It's like, what's more punk rock than pissing off punk rockers? So I'm doing it. I'm going to fucking do it. And I don't care. And we do it. And a guy walks backstage and he goes, "How would you like to play in Brazil?" And we're like, "What? Brazil? Like, nobody will know in Brazil." Oh, we were wrong. We got to Brazil and a lot of people were not happy and a lot of people were happy. And I decided to do it because I talked to a very respected guy in punk rock, and he said, "If you're doing it for money, fame, anything for your band or your benefit, you're in it for the wrong reasons. If you're doing it because these songs are our hymns and are meant to be performed live, and the original guy can't do it anymore or won't do it anymore or is legally prevented from doing it, whatever the case may be, and you want to go and spread those lyrics of those songs that we grew up with, that we believe in with all of our hearts, then you should probably do it." And I went, "Yeah, I'm not looking to make fucking money at this. It's punk rock. It's like, nobody pays me to surf or skateboard. Nobody pays me to play punk rock. Yeah, you get a couple $100 here, there, whatever." So I go for it, and we go to Brazil, and me and DH are going to meetings, and we go on a world tour for 2.5 years, and we go to meetings everywhere. And we're in Akron, Ohio, and the band wants to go to the Hall of Fame, and me and DH are like, "We're going to our Hall of Fame," and we go to Dr. Bob's house. So recovery was a big part of my touring life. And when my band went to Europe, I went to meetings everywhere. And when I moved to Europe and was working with bands and helping them negotiate recovery, I knew where all the meetings were because I'd already been through on tours with my band and other bands, and people just kept coming, and I just kept getting on buses with people like the guy who taught me how to help people. And I just take people to meetings and show them, like, here's what we do. Here's all these great vegan restaurants for you vegans, and here's all these great things to go do. Like, instead of getting high, you wake up, you're not hungover, you can do stuff. You can go to museums. You can go see Anne Frank's house. You can go see Van Gogh Museum. You can go get a Picasso tattoo in Spain. You can go fucking, you go do this in Rome, and you go see the Northern Lights in Iceland. I took them on all these tours of all these places I'd been and things I'd done because I knew they were really cool things to do in recovery. And then you go to a meeting, and taking people to a meeting in Dublin where you're in a pub and you're sitting on cases of Jameson, and it's that Irish beer. I don't even drink it, but
Guinness.
Guinness. Yeah, you're sitting on stacks of cases of Guinness, and they're passing around a Gaelic big book that they won't sell you because it's the only one they have,
Oh, that's awesome.
and then died, and they don't even know where to get another one because I bought big books in different languages everywhere I went, Japanese and Cyrillic, and yeah, but I couldn't get one in Gaelic because they only had one in Dublin. But it's been this amazing journey of 29 years of going to meetings all over the world, because even though you don't speak the language, you're all there for a common purpose. Like, everybody just wants to stay sober that day. And we wandered into a meeting in Japan, and we're like, wonder where all the guys are. And this woman walked over that spoke English. She goes, "This is a woman's meeting, but you're welcome." And so me and DH sat there, and then at the end of the meeting, some hands went up, and we're like, "Oh, they need help, like, cleaning or putting away the chairs," and we're like, and they all start laughing because we have our hands up, and they had asked for who would be a sponsor for another woman.
Oh.
We were volunteering. So, just going to experience things like that you would never do if you weren't, like, in a punk rock band or on the road or sober or in Japan. It's like those 4
Or
things.
high, or high. If you're using, you wouldn't do any of that stuff. I mean, it's like experiencing and celebrating life, and you get to a point where you don't even wanna use again because you're experiencing life in the ways that we never did when we were using.
You don't have time to think about getting high because you're realizing that you're soaking in all this information and seeing all these beautiful things. Like, I've been to countries on tour that I'd been to when I was loaded that I couldn't even remember. Like, I've been here before? Me and my brother were in Croatia on tour in 2017, and I'm like, "This is I think this is familiar?" And he goes, "It used to be called Yugoslavia. You were here." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it changed. That's right. I knew I'd not been to Croatia, but I was in Yugoslavia back in the day. Yeah, so let's go see all this cool shit that I forget that I even saw." You know, I'd forgotten the Red Square in Moscow when I was a kid because I was loaded.
So, is that what you do now? What do you do now? You travel as a sober companion and you're in bands? What does your life look like today?
I'm in a band. If somebody needs help, I will help them. If the stars align, I have a foundation. My nephew died from a fentanyl overdose 4.5, almost 5 years ago. And I told my sister I would do whatever I could do to help. The beach area that we live on is pretty fucked up with drugs and alcohol. It's still kind of the way it was when I grew up, although Orange County's kind of invaded and, raised the prices of everything. It's still kind of the beach scum area. Kids that are out here don't have a lot. Like, we don't have a skate park nearby, and we just have the surf, and surfers are kind of notoriously fucked up. And you know, construction jobs are far and few between because everything's all built up, and these kids just have nothing to do, and they're bored, and there's a lot of drugs because a port on that side and the Seabees in the Navy and a harbor here and a harbor there, and drugs float in boats pretty well. So my nephew overdosed and died on the same evening that his best friend died from the same batch that they got from a guy that we knew in Oxnard. And they couldn't afford treatment even if they wanted to. They never asked me. And my nephew had a really bad habit for a long time, and I was asked continuously by family members to help him, but you can't help people who don't want it, and he never wanted it. I talked to him a few times. His brother went to rehab. His brother gave it a go, and now his brother's doing really well. My brother has 17 years sober. My sister, his mom, has 15. My other brother has 7, and I'm coming up on 30. So the whole family's in recovery, but we lost one to the disease, and I started a foundation. It's called the Brandon Cruz Foundation.org. And we take community donations, and we put people in treatment and detox and sober living and whatever that can't afford it. So we're just starting. We're pretty new. I have a good board of directors, some friends, and some doctors, and some people that I've worked with in the past that I trust. And we're going to have our first fundraiser down the road. I mean, I'm always consulting with people and saying, "Oh, can you get Medicare? Can you get Medi-Cal? Like, I know where to get you a bed for free. Like, I can't pay for it, but I know how to get you into a place that you don't have to pay for."
That's vital to know. This was my
I
primary
have a lot of
barrier
resources.
for me. Okay, good, that's good. My primary barrier was no money, no insurance ever, and so I never could go anywhere ever and no family member paying for anything. I also kicked.
There's about 10 places between LA, Santa Barbara, and Ventura County, and maybe even up into San Luis Obispo and down Orange County and San Diego that I know that you can call and say, "I'm homeless. I need help. Get me insurance." And they'll get you Medicare, Medi-Cal, pretty much on the spot. And they'll take you in, and they're county beds, and they're usually 90-day programs, if not longer. Also, Bet Shuva in Santa Monica, which is free. but you go there for like a year. But they have helped a lot of my friends. There's Music Cares that used to do a lot of help with people for really low to no income. Now they've kind of, mm, I'll never, I never want to outwardly speak poorly about places that want to help people, but it's more difficult to get the help now through different, just, I don't know, happenings and, you know, the state of the union, so to speak. This country's kind of
It's
fucking
harder.
off on
It's
one foot
harder to
right
get
now.
help.
So
It's difficult, yeah.
everything's a little more difficult. So however I can help with the resources that I've gathered over the last 29 plus years, I will give freely. People call my foundation and they're like, "We don't have any money." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't either, so I can't put you somewhere, but I can help you."
So how would somebody contact you? Through the foundation?
Yeah, just look up brandoncruz.org. We have social media. I'm on Facebook and I think I have a TikTok. I don't know. I have a girl
You have
who
an
does all the
Instagram. I
social
know you
media.
have an Instagram because 'cause we're mutuals on
I have an
Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, there's an Instagram, there's a TikTok, there's a Facebook, there's a LinkedIn. You can donate to it. We've gotten a couple donations, a few $100. But I haven't done a fundraiser. Like I want Margaret Cho and Bobby to do a fundraiser. I want comedians. I want like magicians. I don't need punk bands. That's noise and freaking amplified sound and too many people. And I want nice, quiet, little intimate things. And I'm not looking to, it's a nonprofit, and somebody's like, "Oh, dude, you can get so rich off a nonprofit." I'm like, "That's not why I
That's not the point.
started it."
That's not the point. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know people that run huge nonprofits that, they're the CEO and they get a stipend, or they get they're driving a pretty bitchin' car and they're renting a pretty bitchin' house and stuff. But it's like, that's not my end goal. I have a house. I can see the ocean. I'm, s- I'm happy. I'm good.
That's actually a good question, though. How did you rebuild your life to the point where you have a house and you live on the beach? Because the day after, when you go to the meeting and you're detoxing cold turkey, you're not going anywhere. Do you get like a get well jobs, or it's the sober companion jobs and bands? That's how you rebuild your life.
Well, the companion job came pretty quickly, but I had to do something else. And just before I got sober, I had wrecked snowboarding and mangled my knee. And I was in an art department and I went to the job and I didn't let him see me limp. And then I fell and got workman's comp. And I was given an operation. And then I was told, you can't be in the art department anymore. It's dangerous because you slip and fall and you blow your knee out. And we're going to send a guy over to your house. He's going to give you like this aptitude test and figure out like what you can do next. I'm like, he's going to tell me I could be a librarian or a baker or something fucking horribly boring. So, no, my wife was pregnant. We were in a class. She saw an old schoolmate from high school and he was producing a TV show for Comedy Central. And he said, "What are you going to do when this guy comes to your house and figures out what you're going to do?" And I go, "I don't fucking know." And he goes, "You should learn to edit." He goes, "There's a school that is teaching editing." He goes, "I need editors." He goes, "You remember that thing that went around about the cartoon about the Santa fighting Jesus?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "They're doing a TV show of that. If you learn how to edit, I will hire you." I was the assistant editor on the first 3 seasons of South Park.
Oh,
So, after South Park, I moved on to
Brandon, what is your life? This is crazy. Your life is crazy. This is
so
insane.
after South Park, I went on to do, like, the beginnings of the UFC, the Ultimate Fight TV show, and American Casino, and
So editing, you
early
became an editor.
yeah, I was an editor, and I
Who
edited
was
a
gonna give you hold on, who was gonna give you the aptitude test? Somebody from the union, like the guild? Who was giving you the aptitude test?
workman's comp.
Oh, like the state of California, EDD or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're
got
gonna
it.
come and ask you all these questions and go, "Our tests and your questions to or your answers to our questions show that are going low impact, you know, low paying bullshit job, and, we're gonna give you this much money to learn how to do that trade."
Got it. Okay,
And
okay.
and so the guy came over and I said, "Before you start, I wanna go to this place and I'm gonna learn this thing and it's gonna cost this much." And I know they had allocated like X amount of dollars and I came in like 50% cheaper to learn how to operate the editing system. And the guy went, I think I can recommend that.
That's actually a cool thing that California does.
So I went to school. I learned how to operate the editing machine. And then on Halloween, I was done. And the guy said, okay, come and work. And South Park's original production office was an old sperm bank in Westwood.
Oh my
So
sure, of course.
my office was in the old sperm bank.
Did
So
you
there were
by
a lot.
any chance were you still editing or did you know the guys when the character of Mr. Slave came around? John?
No, I
Okay.
got to do Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride. So I was there when George Clooney had to be the gay dog. He wanted to be a voice so bad. He kept calling and calling and calling, and they didn't care. They were just fucking with him. They're like, nah, hang up. Nah, tell him no. Tell him no. And then they went, have him come in. And he came in, and the vocal booth, the audio booth was right next to my editing bay. So Clooney walks in, and they're like, okay, we got something for you. You're a dog. And he goes, okay, great. Okay, bow wow, woof, woof. What do you want to do? And they're like, you're a gay dog. He's like, okay. So he goes in the vocal booth and he's like, okay, woof. And they're like, no, gayer. For 2 hours, they fucked with George Clooney. And he wasn't too happy. He realized they were fucking with him. And he walked out of the booth after 2 hours and said, I think we're done here, and left. And we laughed about that. Thought that was awesome.
You're
But
talking
then
about
I got,
Trey. What are those
yeah,
dudes' names?
Matt and Trey
Trey and Matt and
were
Trey.
fucking monstrous partiers, bowls of ecstasy in the production room and stuff. And from what I hear, they don't do drugs any longer.
Okay. Okay.
So that's
Interesting.
pretty cool. I still know the producer that told me to, do that. Our kids grew up together because we met in Lamaze class. That's where I met the guy. So our kids are still friends 31 years now. Yeah. And we're still going.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
And I quit after 3 years because I said, no way is this going to sustain it. They've told every job they could. I would have been doing very well. I'd have been a producer on that show by now.
Right. Well, you kept editing and yeah. So what ends up happening with your mom? What is your relation? Did you have a relationship with her over the years or?
I don't know. On her birthday, I say hi. On Mother's Day, I say hi. This year, it went to message. So it's strained, but she's alive. She's 84. She's still doing what she does. And, I'm not going to change her. I don't want to change her. I just don't have to participate. It's parental situations are not always ideal sometimes.
That's what kind of why I asked. I think it's important to share.
I have learned to forgive. I have learned to accept, and it is what it is. I wish her well. I never wish poorly on anybody, but, you know, going over for dinner once a week and hurrah, let's relive the past just isn't in the books right now. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. I don't know. She lives with my sister. Bless my sister. Bless my sister. I mean, I can't ever live here. I have a small place and I'm never here. I'm traveling all the time. I'm going to Bali. I'm going to Croatia. I'm going
So what do you do now? Wait, what do you do now? You did the editing for a while. What do you do now?
whatever I want. I go out with my band and play gigs. I work on my foundation a lot. I'm writing a script, a mockumentary with a friend who's also in the program. He's a very amazing musician who I've known for a very long time, and we're part of the same men's group. So we're bouncing the script idea around. He's got a film deal. He has a film company. So I'm getting into that. But I do consulting professionally, or if they don't have any money, I just help them. Everything's sliding scale. Everything's, what can you afford? I don't need to drive a Mercedes and I don't need to live on the ocean front. I can see the ocean because I lean over the patio or the balcony and I can catch a glimpse this wide of the ocean surface. I don't have the grand palatial, oceanfront view. That's when I was a kid. That's how I grew up. But those were one-story houses that were bulldozed long ago. And those were houses that, cost $20,000 in the 70s. So yeah, that's not. I'm 64. I'm comfortable. I'm happy. My kids are healthy. My kids are successful. My daughter's an actress. My son works for an amazing company. He just got promoted. He's happy doing what he's doing. My daughter travels all the time. She's got back from London filming something. She's on her way to Idaho soon and then driving cross country by herself just because she can, which I recommended. Like, go see the world. I take them traveling as much as possible. I invested well when I was, sober and knew what I was doing. And, I don't have a lot, but what I have is very meaningful. It's the quality of life. It's not the extravagant stuff. Like, I didn't get sober for the cash and prizes. Those don't exist to me. The closeness I have with my family, my kids, the friendship I still have with my ex-wife, the relationships I have with people in recovery, and the fact that I'm open enough to give my time when it needs to be given, and to know to take care of myself and to charge and know my worth and my self-worth, because fighting that ego that I had and still have, but it's way more in check now than it used to be. It's an important thing, and every day I wake up and I have to remember I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, and if I choose to, I can go that way. And if I choose the other way, that's going to require some work. Like, it'd be really easy to get fucked up. It'd be very easy to forget about, the color of the reflecting pool or the outcome of some fucking game where people kick a ball. It's just the mind boggles that, this guy that hits a ball with a stick makes hundreds of millions of dollars, and this teacher and this nurse in another country, are being fired at by snipers because they believe in a different god or they live on the other side of an imaginary border. That just, I don't fucking get it. So if I spent my time freaking out about that, yeah, I'd probably get loaded. But if I accept that right now around me, what's going on in the place that I don't really have control of, but it's manageable, then I'm good. So would I like to be able to go like globally and do amazing, great things? Perhaps.
You kind of already are, though.
I mean, is it possible? I mean, I'm going to Croatia to help out in a humanitarian based endeavor that I'm really proud of. But it's kind of a private thing. It's a personal thing that I'm doing, and it's not going to affect anyone here, in the States. I'm just doing it because I can. Like, I went to Cuba not too long ago on a humanitarian visa, and when you're filling out the form, it says for the good of the Cuban people. So I did so much taking and so much destroying of shit, myself and others, that this is the time of repair. This is the time of repayment, of being a better person now than I was back when I was that destructive, taking, not giving a fuck about anybody, especially about myself. Like, I'm making amends to myself as much as I am to other people, because I've been around long enough to learn that I deserve it, and understanding that I deserve it and that it's okay to be okay with yourself was one of the hardest lessons that I've learned in recovery. It's not a inflated ego. It's not a superiority thing. It's just be a good person, because when you boil it all down, whatever religion you believe in or whatever recovery method you're following, the golden rule is what it's all about. Just be a good person. Just be good to other people. If that comes at a cost, it comes at a cost. Have faith that you'll get repaid. And I'm not saying Sky Daddy. I'm not saying Buddha or Allah or, the Great Spirit, whatever you fucking believe. I was such the non-believer. My grandpa said, we are heathens. We're not going to church. Fuck Easter. I mean, it was like, no, because Easter was, in a Catholic church where they molested family members. Like, we're not going there. No, fuck that. So I grew up in this violent, hate-filled environment, and I don't live that way anymore.
Yeah.
I like stuff. I love people, you know? And I get all emo about shit, and I'll cry anytime. I'm gonna go see Toy Story 5 tonight with my kids. I'm gonna fucking cry, you know? I know it.
Yeah.
I fucking know it. And my daughter's already making fun of me. She's like, "I'll bring the tissues." I'm like, "You goddamn well better." There's fucking Taylor Swift songs in there. And I'm a fucking Swiftie.
Well, Brandon, I can't thank you enough for your time. I'm so glad I got to hear your insane story.
It's
What a life.
it's my story,
What
and
a life.
yeah, it's still being, lived out and
Totally.
remembered and repaired, and then more stuff continues, and
More will be
down the
revealed,
road I hope to do.
as they say.
Yeah, I want to do more work with Tracy and Hilton. Have you interviewed her?
I have, yes. A while ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Suki. Suki is amazing. I've learned so much from her about harm reduction and stuff, and because I'm a distributor and an educator for this county of Ventura with Narcan, and I hand out fentanyl test strips. In fact, after this, I'm going to a skate park because it's International Go Skate Day, and I'm going to hand out Narcan and fentanyl test strips to a bunch of skater kids, and I'm going to skate because I'm 64 and I can ride a fucking skateboard still. So I'm gonna do it, and all these little kids are gonna look at me like, "All right, grandma, what are you fucking doing in here? Don't break a hip." And but I can skate, so watch out, kids. I'm coming skating. I'm enjoying this, and I love being able to be on your show. I love the interviews that you've done, and you've interviewed some friends of mine and some really amazing people. So it's really cool to put that out there. We need more of this.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, I thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful time watching Toy Story. I hope you do cry and sushi
I will.
with your kids. And I just thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.